Hey guys, this is a video on how to scout for reefscape 2025. So some of the things that you should know beforehand is having watched the 2025 First Robotics Competition reefscape game introduction, and this will give you a general idea of how the game structure is, the objectives, and things like that. So if you just want to Google that, go ahead and do that now. You can pause the video and then come back when you are ready. So why do we scout? Well, during competitions, teams make good plays, bad plays, medium plays, or they just have plays. And we want to know that information. So when we scout, we're helping our strategists um, get insight, of course, and identify weak spots in things that we do and our opponents. Because later on in alliance selections during playoffs, we want to pick the best alliance, or if someone chooses us for an alliance, we can respectfully decline or accept, depending on what our data says. So that's why it's important to scout, because we want this information to make sure that we actually win. So scouting at competitions, this was at 2025 SAC Regionals. This was up at the stands in the gym. A lot of new scouts and old scouts, and especially for new scouts, this is kind of what it looks like. It sounds cool in theory, but it's really us just sitting in stands. So we have like blue 1, blue 2, blue 3, red 1, red 2, red 3, and a scout tech, right? And everybody is looking at their own respective robots. And this is kind of what the scouting shifts look like. Of course, this was for Chesy when not a lot of people went to like the competitions, especially during off season. So definitely encouraged to go to competitions, especially if you are interested. Make sure you get everybody that you know to go to competitions, because this is not the schedule that you want to be in. So for anybody watching this 2025 off seasons, please go to CCC. It's very important. So some of the etiquette and rules before we get started with learning about scouting. It's important not to be on your phones or use your AirPods during and between matches. Not only is this just not allowed, it is a little bit disrespectful, and they often post information on the boards before matches start, such as the teams that you need to be scouting and the matches. And if you miss this, it's not a good time. You're not gonna have a good time. Snacks and water are allowed, but be clean and don't get the tablets, the seats, or just around you dirty. So clean up with yourself and help others. And if you have free time, just get other people's snacks. In addition, bathroom breaks are okay. Just ask the scout tech. They're in the black chair to either fill in for you or to find someone who's off shift to sub in for you between matches. Additionally, you need to know when your shift starts and ends. Scouting shifts will be put in the Discord about an hour or two before the competition even starts, or like before gates open. And of course, don't copy data from other scouts. You're not going to be scouting the same robot, and even if we do double scout, if there are enough people at a competition, you still don't want to do that. You want to understand where you've made mistakes, especially because not only does Strat look at the data just for themselves, but also when we do overviews of data in the future and we do more scouting practice, especially before season starts, we want to make sure that you understand how certain mistakes can be made and how to fix them. Alright, so let's move to the setup, and I'm actually just going to, instead of looking at these slides 24/7, I have the tablet app pulled up, but we'll just go ahead and read off the slides. And if you have a tablet in front of you, you're going to want to go ahead and pull that up, and you're going to want to go to the Eagle Force scouting application, and I'm going to go ahead and change that right here. So let's pretend we're on the home page real quick. Let's find the app with our team logo on it, so it should say scouting form. You want to open that up, and I've already got it set up here, but you're going to want to actually move over to this top left corner here, and this is just going to be for competitions. And since we're in testing, or I assume you're watching this video for testing, you're going to want to go to here, you want to go to settings, and you're going to want to set your position. Now, during an actual competition, you'd want to set this, but I suppose since we're in testing, we don't really need to set this. But when you look at your scouting shifts, you're going to see red 1, red 2, red 3, blue 1, etc. And you're going to want to set your position based on where the scout tech puts you. So you want to select that, and it just looks like that, and it'll tell you red 1, red 2, etc. Right? Then the processor side. So this one's kind of important, and I'll have a dedicated slide for it later. So if we go back to the scouting form here, you'll notice that the processor, as we see in the video, is on this side. And so this is important because if we're sitting on the other side, these alignments of the field are messed up, and so you want to change that. So I guess for this video, we'll pretend that we're on the processor side. So for the processor side, if you are on it, we'll go ahead and select that. You'll turn it on, and if you go back to the scouting form, it should automatically change, and it should tell you processor at the top. So that's just another way to make sure. Then you're going to want to select your schedule file. Most of the time you shouldn't have to set this information. The scouting tech should have done it for you. You can either select it here, or you can go to schedule and you can load this in. I'm going to go ahead and remove the current schedule here. This would load. Oh, that's a little bad. Let's go ahead and get rid of this real quick. So you're going to want to go ahead and load in the schedule, and it should have the match like naming conventions like 2025 CC, especially for like Chesy and stuff, or 2025 Kata. That's the event code for 2025 SAC regionals. So you can see here 2025 CC matches. This is for Chesy. So I'd go ahead and click this and just load it in. It should be in downloads by default, but if you have to look around, that's okay. Should kind of look like this when it loads in. Just verify. You can go on the dual alliance just to make sure that everything's set. Again, most of this should already be set by your scout tech, but it's good to know this information in case a scout tech isn't available or you need to get this information ahead of time. So once we set our schedule, you're going to go over to competition, and you're going to want to select this. And let's say we were at Chesy Champs, then we're going to want to go ahead and select Chesy, capital city, which, please go to. Then you would select that, but right now we're in testing, so let's just go ahead and select testing. We'll keep red one in all the competition files and schedule files, and we'll go back to the scouting form. So I'm just going to read off a little bit more of the slides here before we get started. So of course we have the setup here with the associated seedings that you want to select and the teams that you're going to have. And we just went over the processor, and it's the processor on your side. And I'll go over that especially on the video as well. It's pretty self-explanatory, I would hope. And then the setup, we just put in testing, so that's okay. We loaded in our schedules. And this is the sample video we're going to be using. I have the video pulled up on my screen, and we'll switch over to it, and I will do hopefully live scouting as we go over it and try to get to that. So we're going to use qualifications 49 of 2025 SAC regionals. And if you get a little bit of the first few seconds, you can actually see this in the top left corner. Let's just go ahead and go through this. Actually, we'll do the demos at the end. So for info, I'll go ahead and switch back to the tablet app. So for info, you're going to want to put in your name, preferably your first name, full first name. Then you're going to put in the match number, and in this case it was 49. And if we switch back to the thing, I believe we are set for 254. Oh, I guess we're not. But if you were watching this on the screen and you were, say, red 1 would be 5171, red 2 would be 5274, and red 3 would be 254. So I guess in this case we'll just pretend that we're red 3, but it doesn't really matter since we're just testing it out right now. So let's go back to the info page. And in the info page, you'll put in your team, and this one is important. So this should already be set by Scout Techs, but obviously there are 3 days to competitions. There's the practice, qualifier, and playoffs. I think playoffs are the same. Actually, no, it shouldn't be 3 days. Qualifier and playoff are on the same days most of the time, but first day is normally practice rounds, so you're going to want to set your quantifier or the yeah, like what quantifies the day of the event. So you can either do practice, qualifiers, or playoff. Um, Most of the time you'll either be within practice or qualifier. We don't always do playoffs, but again, just make sure to keep that out. And if you see anything, just change it and let your scout tech know, because sometimes other people's might be changed as well. Then let's go ahead and move over to the start positions. Well, actually, I'm going to go ahead and actually, let's not do start positions. Let's talk about the processor. So for the processor, as we can see here, this is the processor that we see in the video. And from this camera's perspective, we are away from the processor, right? So this would mean we are in the non-processor side, and it should directly correlate to the match setup. As you can see here, these red lines also correlate to these red lines, and the blue lines correlate to these blue lines, and of course the processors. So let's move on to auto locations. Auto locations is where they're going to be, and this relates to the start positions that we were just talking about. But real quick, let's go over the slides. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 for the start positions are pretty self-explanatory. They aren't specific locations. They're more like general locations, just so that Strat knows, hey, where's this robot going to set up? Do we have to redo our autos, etc., etc.? So 1, I kind of manually mapped it out here. 1 would be right here, 2 would be about here, 3 right in the middle, 4, and then 5. And so let's say we were doing 2, 5, 4. That would basically correlate to position number 2. And let's go ahead and input that into our start position. All right, let's move back. Let me think. I think I was supposed to do something with. We'll just move on with that. I think I was supposed to talk about something. Oh, and if there's no show in the auto part, basically if they just don't show up to the competition, then you're all good. Like, you just put no show and then you don't have to fill out any data, so it's okay. So let's go ahead and move over to the auto section, and I'm going to explain how and what each button does first, and we'll start with the slides first, and then we'll show like how inputs of things should work. And I think my thing is switched, so we're just going to go ahead and switch it back. Alright, so let's talk about the button meanings for auto. You should have already swiped over to the right on your tablet. So, during the auto, there are a multitude of things that teams can do. If you click the plus for the net, this means that they scored an algae into the net. Although logically you would have to pick either removed algae or ground pickup for you to be able to click net. Now there's nothing stopping you from doing that, but that's just something to note. So normally they all start off with a coral. They have the option to set up with a coral, and they can go to the reef. But actually, let's just explain this first. So the net is pretty self-explanatory. If they score in the net during their auto, you want to click 1 or subtract 1, depending on like if something happened, like if algae got knocked out, or if it went in, you click it and you had to go back, stuff like that. And if they removed an algae from the reef, kind of like what we do if you ever watched one of our autos, you can add like one time when they removed the algae, or if they didn't, like if it was a mistake. Same for processor, if they put an algae in processor or not. And then if you click this one, it should say leave, so I'll go ahead and kind of show that right here. If you want to click that, so it's like leave. That basically means that they didn't have an auto. So they could show up and they can just sit there for the first 15 seconds and just not do anything, and that's when you select that, and you just don't have to put anything else. Then let's move to the approximate reef locations. So these two things, the level and the reef locations, correlate to each other. So when the auto starts, the teams can place the coral. Most of the teams place their coral on the reef, right? I'm pretty sure you should, right? But then there's different levels, right? As we noticed, like in the picture of the actual reef. Let's go ahead and just find a picture of the reef. Right, this is L4, L3, L2, and then all the way at the bottom is L1. So you can select which level that they score on, because not all teams score on L4. And you click the approximate location that they went to, preferably the specific location, if possible. But you click that location, and it should show up in the action history, which I'll go ahead and show right now. So let's say they went to here on L4, it'll show 4L. This just correlates like A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L. These are letter coordinated, but that's okay. It should just show you like which one you're at. So you click 4L, and it'll tell you they scored on the L section of the reef at level 4. And of course, just another note, you want to do this chronologically as in how things worked. On the scouting app, strategists will be looking at this in order to figure out how autos are run, just to make sure that things are running smoothly and that the team isn't doing whatever is relevant to the strategist. And when you double click this means that they missed their auto. So not all teams have perfect autos, especially us sometimes. And what happens is they will try to put the coral on the reef and it will just miss. Happens. So what do? We just double click it and it's red, and that now means that they tried to go there. Like let's say they moved from the start position to the reef, they went and elevated to L4, they dropped the coral and it just didn't stick and it dropped to the floor. Then we click the red button and it means that they missed. And if you just made a mistake, that's okay. You just click it one more time and it removes it. So again, this means that they successfully added a coral to L4, that they missed it, and if you messed up, you just remove it. Alright, so let's move to the ground pickup. The ground pickup kind of looks like it's the three algae and coral that kind of stand up on each other. They kind of look like that, and they're lined up in a row of 3. And so if they knock that down or they pick up something from the ground, that's when you want to select that, and it'll show up in the action history. And then sometimes they're autos. What will happen is they will place something on the reef, and then they'll go over to an intake, and that's when you want to click the plus on the intake because they got a coral, and they went back, and then you'd probably click like say here or here to show that they went from their start position to the reef, to the intake, to the reef, and then maybe to the intake, and then that's when the 15 seconds stops. So let's go ahead and look at that on the actual app. Right, so you can click 1, source A, right, and then maybe they went to here, right, so 4L, so maybe they started from their auto position, went to source A for some reason, and then went to the reef, dropped it off because it's successful. They went to the back reef, or source 2, they went to source B, and they come here, but then, oh no, they missed it, and then now their auto time is up. So this would show that they missed here at their auto position, and then once the 15 seconds is up, then you just leave. And then you swipe over, and we go to teleop. So teleop is actually a lot easier than auto. It's pretty self-explanatory. It doesn't really matter specifically where the robot goes, just like how much of something that they did. Do they specialize in L4? Do they specialize in L3? Right, so we want to record that information. So as long as you're tracking your robot and you see, hey, they scored L4 5 times, then you would click L4 5 times, right? L3, L2, L1, etc. Again, these same buttons correlate to the same thing. If they scored anything in net, if they removed any algae from the reef, and if they scored anything in processor. Alright, let's move on to endgame. So, endgame it's actually way easier, and it's a lot of fun. So, according to the rules of FRC, well, for one, a robot should be parking, but if they run around and they're trying to win, and say they're super close, and they don't want to hang, and they're continuing to score coral, well, and they're not even in the barge zone at all, which would be like the little line where they start their auto, then you just keep it as no park. But, and as a park is defined, the robot's bumper must be at least partially or completely within its alliance's barge zone. So a park would probably qualify as, like, say, half of the robot being in the barge zone. If they weren't, and like say just like a tiny part of their bumper is in there, you wouldn't count that, and judges probably wouldn't either. Then if they get a successful shallow hang, then you can click 1, 2 times, and you can get this image, and this shows that they did a successful shallow hang. One more time, and you get a deep hang. And thanks to Adrian, we actually got some pretty cool animations going on here. You click it once, you get your park. Twice, you get your shallow. 3 times, you get your deep. Pretty self-explanatory. Alright, so let's move to the details. So, of course, we want to see how good their driver is, right? Because they may have scored 15 for any multitude of reasons, or they could have scored 1 for any multitude of reasons. So this is just extraneous information that Strat would want to know regarding how good the driver was. And defense being defined as, let's say, a robot's intake breaks and they can no longer pick up algae or coral. While they do have the option to just go over to the other side and like start blocking intakes. Sometimes they ram robots, which I'm pretty sure they're not allowed to do, but depending on how well they prevent the other team from scoring coral, algae, wherever, you can rate that out of 5 to your discretion compared to us. So if you think we're like a 3, then you could say like, oh yeah, their defense performance is about a 3, and if it's like a 5, it's like, oh my gosh, that's way better than what we do. Right, so these are just kind of compared to us. And then comments should be anything special that Strat should know about. Like, your driver performance might be a 2, but then you should explain like why they do that, or their performance might be a 5, and you should say like, oh yeah, this they're really good at L1, by the way, and they do this, and this. Although sometimes they do this, which explains, say, maybe why they moved from L4 to L1 suddenly in the game, and there's a pattern shift. You would want to let that know, just for Strat to understand that in case of alliance selections, there's something finicky going on with drivers. Then, of course, there's 3 easy things. If the robot is broken, like you can see something that got snapped off, or it's just not working anymore, it's not picking up correctly, then you can mark that as broken. If it's disabled, there should be a flashing light on every single robot that's kind of yellow. If it goes solid and the robot just stops moving, then you can mark it as disabled. Tipped is pretty, wouldn't say rare in some cases, but sometimes the robots can put their elevators too high, and when they try to move, the robot tips over. Or if they get stuck on an algae, that can be counted as tipped, where they try to move and they can't. Sometimes their teammates will go and ram them and try to get them unstuck, but in that case, you can always just mark as tipped, and you can say, hey, they got tipped on the algae, so their driver wasn't very good, and maybe they broke something else. But again, up to discretion. That's how the details work. Let's go ahead and actually do that on the app itself. So maybe let's say like 254. They're a really good team, so we'll say they're like their driver performance is like a 5, right? And also, something about their robot broke. Maybe their coral intake broke. So we'll say they went to the other side and their defense was about ours, like if we had to do defense. Now, not that we've really ever done defense, but it's about a 3. They were blocking intakes most of the time. They were making sure people couldn't score, and we won the match, right? And you'd say like intake broke, driver blocked a lot of intake and etc., right? Just whatever you want to say, kind of. And coming up with comments kind of just comes with watching a bunch of games and being there. So again, go to CCC, please, or just competitions in general, especially the ones that we host. They're local. And let's say, since their intake broke, you can mark it as broken, and then maybe during the match, they ran over an algae and they got tipped, so you can mark down as tipped. Then when you're done, you go to the QR code and you wait for your scout tech. So yeah, just let the scout tech scan it. When they say you're good, just click finish scan. And here's the cool thing about the scouting app. You can confirm your submission, and then it'll go over and it'll automatically go to match 50, and it'll automatically give you the team that you're supposed to be scouting. So sometimes if schedules aren't loaded in, it won't do this. So of course, always be on the eye out and know how to do team finding, like who you're scouting, what match number it is. Most of the time schedules should be posted, but if not, then you would have to do. Oh, I just realized I was not showing that. Yeah, so when you click QR code finish, it will move over and it will automatically go up to the next number. As you can see, it was at 50, now it's at 51, and it'll automatically assign the team that you're supposed to be in. So again, cool feature. Now let's move over to error and troubleshooting. These are just kind of like common things that you may encounter as a scout. If a position isn't set, just ask your scout tech or look at your chair. Most of the time you should know where you're set, especially if you have the scouting schedule. So just get in the correct chair and find the robot you're supposed to be assigned with. And if you're not on the processor side, pretty simple. We went over that. Just go to the settings, go to processor side, and whether you are or aren't on the processor side, just select that and then go back to the scouting form and make sure that the image says processor or non-processor, and make sure it lines up. And also let your scout tech know, because maybe other people might not have been configured correctly, so you're going to want to go ahead and change that. Then of course, if you need to select a schedule file, if you notice that one is not loaded, please do that, and if there's none, ask the scout tech to load one in, and if all else doesn't work, just put it in manually, put in the team numbers, the match, and contact a developer about that. And if the competition option doesn't exist, such like, let's go over to the actual app. Let's go over to setting, competitions. Let's say we were at Sacktown for 2026, and that doesn't exist. Then you're going to want to go ahead and tell your scout tech, be like, hey, my thing does not have Sacktown in this example. Then in that case, the scout tech may give you a new tablet, depending on what they do, or in any case, just switch to testing and then let them know, and make sure to get a screenshot of your information or like your data, and then send it to the scout tech, and honestly just listen to them for errors and troubleshooting. So you shouldn't encounter these often, but if they do happen, just make sure you know what you do. So just as one more thing, I guess we should go ahead and just watch an actual video of like a match, and we'll scout it live. In this example, we'll use the 40 qualifications 49 and scout 254, just because that's what it was already set up for.